have started with chapter number 4. It is an animal kingdom. In this animal kingdom, in the previous session, we have discussed regarding different types of classification of animals. That means we have learned the different kind of criteria they are used to classify the animals, like level of organization, symmetry, layers, coelum, segmentation, notochord. These are the criteria based on that we have classified the animals, because it is not possible to learn all the different types of animals together. So we have classified them into groups and we will learn the characteristic of this group. So now onwards, in this chapter, we will learn the characteristic of each and every phylum. So let us discuss the characteristic of each and every phylum. We will start with a very simple animal and then we slowly move towards a complex variety of an animal. So let us start with a very simple one, and the first phylum of animal kingdom, it is called as phylum Porifera. This is the first phylum called as Porifera. Okay, so we will learn or we will discuss that characteristic. Let us start. The first one is called as habitat. Where these kind of animals can be found, or the animals which falls under the phylum Porifera, they found where? So these animals, they are mostly aquatic. They can be found in both kind of water. They can be found into a fresh water. They can also found into a marine water. So in both variety of waters, it can be found, fresh water and the marine water. You just remember the criteria what I am discussing, because this criteria remains from same from phylum to a phylum. So first of all, we have to talk about the habitat, in where they can be found, where they are living. So they are living mostly aquatic, in a fresh water and the marine water. Second characteristic we can find is the level of organization. Which variety of or which level of organization they have? Do they have a cell level, tissue level, organ level, organ system level? So here they have a cellular level of organization. In cellular level of organization, they are multicellular. They are not unicellular, they are multicellular. Okay, and they have a cellular level of organization that is observed in case of Porifera. Next, when we discuss about its symmetry, so what variety of symmetry is found? Here this variety of animals cannot be divided into equal half through any plane. None of the plane can divide it into equal half. That means here the symmetry is asymmetry. Okay, so they have an asymmetry. They are aquatic, can be found in a fresh water and marine water. They have a cellular level of organization. The symmetry that is present in them is the asymmetry. Now we will discuss the main important characteristic of each and every phylum. So what is the main important characteristic of this phylum Porifera? The name itself suggests Porifera, means it possesses the pores. Pores means holes. So pores are present on its body surface. This is its main criteria. That's why we give it name as a Porifera. Holes are present, pores are present, minute pores are present, okay, on its body surface. That's why we call it as a phylum Porifera. These pores, in other words, it can also be called as ostia. Okay, these pores, the another name of this pore, they can be called as a ostia. So on its body surface, there is a presence of pores or ostia. Now what happens through this pore, minute pore, hole? What happens? The water enters into it, because they are living in either fresh water or the marine water. Okay, so the water which is present surrounding to their body surface, they enter into their body through this pore, and they enter into a specific body cavity, what we call it as spongocoel. Okay, so spongocoel is a body cavity. Okay, it is a body cavity in which water enters. Okay, how it enters? It enters through It enters through pores, or you can say ostia. Okay, through pores or the ostia, the water that enters into a body cavity, what we are calling it as spongocoel. So it enters into a body through a pores. Through pores, it connects to a body cavity called as spongocoel. Now, once this water that has been utilized for different purposes, okay, like respiration or collection of nutrient or removal of a waste, then the water is going to be removed out, and they are also removed out by another pore, okay, and this is called as osculum. So water goes out of body of this phylum Porifera through another pore. You can call it as osculum. Okay, so remember what happens in it. Here they are aquatic. The water enters through the small minute pores, what we call it as ostia. Okay, through ostia it enters into body cavity, spongocoel. So the different cells which comes in the contact with this water present in the spongocoel, they take the nutrient, take the respiration, remove the waste, and after doing this activity, the water goes out of their body through the osculum, another pore, okay, through which it goes out. So this kind of a thing they are present into an animals of a phylum Porifera. Okay. Now when we talk about the digestion, how they digest. So here the digestion is intracellular, means the digestion that occurs within a cell. So the digestion is intracellular. Now when we talk about the skeleton, they have some sort of very simple primitive kind of a skeletons. Okay, so as a skeleton they have a presence of spongines, or they have a spicules. They have a presence of spongines or the spicules as a skeleton. Okay, and through this spongine and the spicules, they are able to maintain their cell shape. The cell shape is maintained due to this spongine and the spicules. So they have such kind of a skeletal system that exists. Okay, so here the digestion is intracellular. As a skeleton, they have a spongine or the spicules. Okay, so this variety that can be found into it. Next is, if you see the next, it is called as a respiration. It's called as a not respiration, but it is a reproduction. Which variety of reproduction can be found? Here, those animals which are falling into this, they can be reduced by both kind of a reproduction, asexual, and the second one is sexual. Both kind of a reproduction can be found in it, asexual and the sexual reproduction. How they reproduce asexual? They reproduce asexually by process called as fragmentation. And how they reproduce sexually? They reproduce by formation of gametes. So this variety of reproduction can be found into a Porifera. Okay, so these animals can reproduce either of method, asexually or sexually. Asexually by fragmentation, sexually by the formation of gametes. They reproduce. Now here if you see the fertilization that occurs inside a body, okay, and the development is indirect. So fertilization is internal and the development is indirect. Such kind of a characteristic you can find into a phylum Porifera. So this becomes a short note on phylum Porifera. I just repeat it down. You just remember the points. Habitat, aquatic, level of organization, cellular, symmetry, it's asymmetry. They have a pores. This is the main important characteristic. That's why we are calling it as Porifera. Through this pore, the water enters. Okay, pore can also be called as ostia. Water enters into body cavity called spongocoel. They utilize the nutrient present in it, take the respiration, remove the waste, and the water goes out of a body through another pore called as osculum. Digestion is intracellular. The spongine or the spicules are present as a skeleton, and the reproduction can be done by asexually as well as sexually, and the fragmentation, asexually by fragmentation and sexually by gametes. Fertilization is internal, development is indirect. So this is the characteristic of Porifera. And there are lots of examples. We will learn the example of each phylum at the last, but just I am telling you, the examples are Spongilla, Cycon. These are the examples of animals which are falling under the phylum Porifera. So this is all about the first phylum, Porifera. Now we are moving ahead with a characteristic of another phylum, and that is, you can say that it is Coelenterata. So let's discuss the another phylum called as Coelenterata. So now we are discussing the phylum Coelenterata, or you can also call it as coelenterates. The basic characteristic remains, the characteristic point remains the same, so you just have to remember this point and just find it out what they have. So if you see this habitat, they are also aquatic, means found in the water, but mostly they are marine, means found into sea water. Okay, so the habitat is aquatic, but mostly they are the marine. Now when we talk about the level of organization, the Porifera has cellular level of organization. This Coelenterata has tissue level of organization. Which level of organization? Tissue. Means they have a tissues in them, and that is the level of organization you can find. Now when we talk about the symmetry, which kind of symmetry they have? They have a radial symmetry. Which symmetry? Radial symmetry. Okay, so the radial symmetry is present into a phylum Coelenterata. Now when we talk about the layers, as it have a tissues, so obviously the tissues are arranged into a layer. So do they have a 2 layer or 3 layers? So these are the animals which have 2 layers, means you can say that they are diploblastic. What kind of they have? They have a diploblastic. Okay, so they are aquatic, mostly marine. They have a tissue level of organization, radial symmetry, and diploblastic organizations can be found into a phylum Coelenterata. Now what is its important characteristic or the main characteristic which separate it from the another phylum? So here the main important characteristic of this Coelenterata is that they have a presence of gastrovascular cavity. What they have? Presence of gastrovascular cavity. We are calling it as hypostome. What we are calling it as? Hypostome. They have a gastrovascular cavity, what we call it as hypostome, that is present. In the phylum Porifera, the body cavity called as spongocoel. In Coelenterata, they have a gastrovascular cavity called as hypostome. Okay. Here, this Coelenterata, it possesses a specialized cell. They have a specialized cell. Okay. So, which kind of a specialized cells are present? You can say that they have a cells called as nidoblast, or you can say nidocytes. C is silent. Okay, they have a nidoblast or the nidocyte. This variety of cells you can be found in it. Nidoblast are the immature, nidocytes are the mature. Now what is the function of this? This nidoblast or the nidocytes has different functions. So what are its functions? They are involved in anchorage. They are also involved into a body defense, and they are also involved into a locomotion. These cells, nidoblast or nidocytes, they have functions of anchorage, body defense, and the locomotion. Okay, so these are the functions of this nidoblast and the nidocytes. And where they are present on the tentacles. Okay, so they present on tentacles which perform these functions. Like I forgot one thing to tell you. As you know that in Coelenterata there is specialized cells called as nidoblast or nidocytes are present. Similarly, in the previous phylum what we have learned, that what we call as Porifera. Porifera also have a specialized kind of a cell. Okay, and these cells which can be found into a Porifera, it's called as coenocytes. Which kind of cells are present? Coenocytes are present in it, in phylum Porifera. Okay, so this is regarding the phylum Porifera, and here in Coelenterata, here the cells which can be found is nidoblast or nidocytes. Okay, so this is about the special characteristic what we have. Apart from that, if you see this Coelenterata, the animals which are falling into a phylum Coelenterata, they have a two form. The first one is called as polyps, means they can exist in a two form. First form is called as polyps, and the second one form is called as medusae. Remember how they look like. The polyps you can say that they are sessile. Okay, sessile means they cannot move, they remain attached to one surface. That means they anchored with the help of the specialized cells. So they are sessile and they are cylindrical in shape. Their shape is like a cylindrical. Those animals which have a polyps form, they are sessile and the cylindrical. But the other one can also be a medusae. And these medusae, they are not sessile, they are free living. Means can be found or free swimming, you can say that. They can be floating on the surface of a water. So they are free swimming and they are umbrella shaped. Like you can see a jellyfish. Okay, so they have an umbrella shape. Okay, so this kind of a characteristic you can find in it. So the animals which falls under the phylum Coelenterata, they can exist in a two form, polyps and medusae. The polyps is a sessile and cylindrical form. The medusae is free living and the umbrella shaped form. Okay, there are also a few animals which shows the alteration of generation. Means polyps can be converted into a medusae and then medusae converts to a polyps. They have alternation, like we have seen in the previous chapter. There are two phases in the life of bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperm, angiosperm, gametophytic phase and sporophytic phase. This phase occurs alternatively, hence we call it as alternation of generation. Similarly, some animals which are falling into a Coelenterata phylum, they have a two forms, polyps and medusae, which occurs alternatively. So some animals also shows the alternation of generation. So here the polyps can be converted into a medusae, like this. Polyps convert to a medusae asexually. Remember how they convert? Asexually. And medusae converts a polyps, like I am showing over here. See the arrow. Medusae converts to a polyps by sexual. Here remember, polyps converts to medusae asexually. Medusae converts to a polyps sexually. So this variety you can find. Okay. Here you can also find the skeleton. Its skeleton is made up of. It's a skeleton. It's made up of calcium carbonate, CaCO3. Their skeleton is made up of calcium carbonate. In the phylum Porifera, they have a spongine or the spicules as a skeleton. Here it is a calcium carbonate. The digestion. Here the digestions they occurs extracellularly outside of a cell. Sometimes it may also be found intracellular. Okay, but most of the time it is found extracellular. Okay, in the cavity. Now, if you see this is the important characteristic of a phylum Coelenterata. So I hope so you understood this. What is a characteristic of phylum Coelenterata? Okay, again just repeat very fast. They are aquatic, mostly marine, tissue level of organization, radial symmetry, diploblastic. They have a presence of gastrovascular cavity called hypostome. They have a specialized cells called as nidoblast, nidocytes. Where they are present on the tentacles. They help in anchorage, body defense, locomotion. The animals can exist in a two form, polyps and medusae. The polyps form is sessiles and cylindrical. The medusae form is free living and umbrella shaped. In few animals, the polyps and medusae they occurs alternatively and shows alternation of generation. Polyps convert to a medusae asexually. Medusae converts to a polyp sexually. The digestion is extracellular. The skeleton it's made up of calcium carbonate. So these are the important characteristics of phylum Coelenterata, the second phylum. Okay, so we have finished the two phylum. First Porifera and the second one is Coelenterata. Now we are moving ahead with another phylum, and this is the last phylum of this session. So we discuss with another phylum. Let us go ahead with another phylum. So the next phylum, you can say that it is Ctenophora. Okay, in the Ctenophora, what is their habitat? They are found in a marine. Okay, that means they are found into a sea water. Next, what level of organization they have? The level of organization. So they also have a same like Coelenterata. They also have a cellular level of organization. There is most of similarity between the Coelenterata and Ctenophora. Okay, so this is the second characteristic, level of organization. Next, if you talk about the symmetry, so what kind of symmetry they have? They have a radial symmetry. Even the Coelenterata also have a radial symmetry. Okay. Next, if you see the layers, so how many layers they have? They have also 2 layers. What we are calling as diploblastic. Okay, this diploblastic. Now we start with the important characteristic. What is the special characteristic of this Ctenophora? So this, you can say that they are also called as comb jelly. What is the another one? It is called as a comb jelly. Okay, because they have a comb-like structures. They have 8 layers. They have a presence of 8 layers of comb-like structures. There were 8 layers of comb-like structures. That's why we are calling it as comb jelly. Okay, clear? Second, next is the next important characteristic of this have, they shows bioluminescence. What is the meaning of bioluminescence? Bioluminescence, that means they emit a light. You might have seen few insects, when they are flying, they emit a light, red color light and so on. So these animals which are living deep into a water or ocean, because they are living into a marine water, they emit a light, and due to this light they are warning the other living organism, do not come over us. This is some kind of a warning to other. So they have a bioluminescence, they have a capacity to emit the light. So such kind of, this is the important characteristic you can find into a Ctenophora. Okay, so this is all about it. Okay, next, if you see that here the reproduction, how they reproduces, so here they reproduces by sexual method. So sexual reproduction occurs in it. The fertilization is external. Remember, the fertilization is external and the development is indirect. Okay, so which kind of fertilization they have in reproduction? Fertilization means fusion of gamete. Where it occurs externally. Okay, external, that means you can say that occurs outside of body. So fertilization is external and the development is indirect. So this is the characteristic of phylum Ctenophora. So students, today we have discussed the 3 phylum: phylum Porifera, phylum Coelenterata and phylum Ctenophora. They are important. Prepare it, keep learning, keep watching, and like and subscribe this channel. Thank you for watching.